So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Hiduku back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, July 6th here today. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, July 6th here today, coming off of another night in sports. Not crazy amount on last night, but the Mets were on. Some other baseball games were on. The Stanley Cup was on. So a lot of still some good sports were on last night. Obviously, the New York Yankees will open up a 3-game series today against the Seattle Mariners. So that should be good. Obviously, you know, we got to get back on track. We got to get going here if we want any chance of trying to make a run towards the playoffs in the second half of the season, and just end the season on a high note, or end the first half of the season on a little bit of a high note. If we can try to grab some wins here in Seattle and then again in Houston, and you look at this team and you look at it from top to bottom, and you just got to hope that somehow, some way we find a way to pull a win out somewhere. Whether that's a close win, whether that's just a win. We just need W's. That's all we need. And right now it's hard to come by those, but we need to find a way to get back on track today. Canadians forced a Game 5 last night against the Lightning. So Game 5 tomorrow night back in Tampa. And if needed, then we go to a Game 6 back in Montreal. And if really needed, a Game 7 back in Tampa. So we'll see how everything plays out. My expectation is I said it from the start, Lightning would win in 6 games. So technically how I have it going is I have the Lightning winning in 6 games, so technically I have Montreal winning this next game, and then the Canadians winning it all. Or not Montreal winning this next game, then the Montreal winning this next game, and Tampa Bay winning it all. But it all depends. It's Montreal, obviously, last night. I thought they played a really physical hockey game. I watched the game. I watched, I was flipping back and forth a little bit. I was watching, I was watching Twins-White Sox game. I had a little bit of the Mets game on, and I flipped on over the Stanley Cup when that came on, and I was watching Stanley Cup pretty much for the whole time. And, a lot of physicality, a lot of, that was kind of the first Stanley Cup game I was able to watch, the full duration of. The other games I just kind of been flipping on and off, seeing a little bit here and there, highlights from, around the internet. But last night was really the first time I was able to actually sit there and watch it. Yankees weren't on. No other, one of my favorite teams were on. So, obviously, a good game, and Montreal wins, so they now move to Tampa and try to get another win and try to complete what a lot of people think is the impossible, coming down from 3-0. But, when you're down 3-0 in a hole, coaches will always tell you this. You got to take it game by game. Montreal last night, Canadians winning that game last night. You cannot sit here and say, oh, well, if we win the next game, then we win the next game. There's a great shot we win another game. No, you got to take it game by game, because if you start looking at the big picture and you start looking at, because the Canadians, they still got to win 3 straight games. They got 1 down. They still got 3 more to go. 3's hard enough. 4's even harder. So they got 1 down. They still got 3 more to go, and you still got to go back to Tampa. So you got to take game by game, because if you look at the big picture and you start to just glare on that, then things aren't going to go well. So, but Game 5 tomorrow night, and not that I was rooting for the Canadians. I'm just hoping for a good series. I've been saying that from the start. Neither of my teams are not neither of my teams, but the Rangers aren't in it. So I've just been hoping for a good series, and I did predict the Lightning to win. That doesn't mean I'm I don't really care who wins. I think it would be cool for either team to win, just because of the story behind it. Lightning win back-to-back. Montreal wins for the first time in, 28 years. So I think it would be cool either one win. But I'm just hoping for a good series. So I'm glad that hockey's not over yet, because it's still fun to watch. Obviously, Yankees play today. Mets play today. Mets won yesterday. They play today, second game of that series against the Brewers. Yankees play the first game of a 3-game set today against the Mariners, and the NBA Finals is on tonight. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. We got the Suns-Bucks preview. As I mentioned yesterday, I said it yesterday on the podcast. Today I will be talking about the NBA Finals preview. So I'll start off with the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks are in the NBA Finals. Game 1 tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. You can find every game on ABC throughout the series, games 1 through 7. If necessary, if they need 7 games, you can find every game of the series on ABC, same time slot every night. So obviously, should be an exciting series. Suns Bucks in the finals. I don't think many people predicted this. Suns, I think a lot of people predicted. I definitely would say that. I don't know if many people predicted the Bucks to make the NBA Finals. I think there was a lot of people out there who had the Nets in there. I think a lot of people had the Sixers in there. There might have been some people who had maybe the Bucks. I mean, I don't think many people had the Bucks, especially with their recent playoff success. Not had much, but at the end of the day, Suns, Bucks are in it, and it's nice to see a little bit of a fresh batch of teams. Instead of it being the Lakers again, and one of those teams again. It's nice to see. I mean, these two teams, right? So it's good to see a little bit of a fresh batch. Suns, Bucks tonight. I'll give you the preview of that. Then I want to get into Chris Paul. I mentioned yesterday I wanted to talk about Chris Paul. Just amazing, kind of his career, everything that's, what he's done and all that stuff. And finally to get the opportunity to play in an NBA final is just amazing to see. Wanted to get into him, wanted to get really into his success and how much he's helped this Phoenix Suns team and a relatively young Phoenix Suns team. You look at the guys like DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, guys that are still young, guys that are still in the beginning part of his career, and Chris Paul's been a big part of it. He's kind of been, in a way, that glue guy. He's been that guy that's, just put everything together. He was kind of that final missing puzzle piece, went to the Phoenix Suns, has been a ginormous part of why they are in the NBA Finals today. So I wanted to get into him. Big NBA day. And then I want to finish off the podcast with the New York Sports Update. As always, give you the update on what's going on, really what's going on around sports, but also what's going on, in New York sports. Yankees open up a series today against the Mariners. 3-game set. Mets play their second game against the Brewers. And the Stanley Cup has a day off. Canadians, Lightning, day off today. They both will travel back to Tampa to play tomorrow night back in Tampa, Game 5. So, we'll see. Like I said, I mean, it's Tampa wins, series over. Canadians win, you live to fight another day. We'll find out how that all plays out. I had Lightning winning in 6, so I guess you have the Canadians winning tomorrow night, but Tampa back home, it's not going to be easy. But hey, the Canadians, they came back from 3-1. So, they came back 3-1 against the Maple Leafs. But at the same thing though, you gotta look at it as like, just use this like it's 3-1. Pretend like it's 3-1 and start from there. If you want to come back from these big deficits, and I said it earlier, you gotta play it like this. You gotta forget about the game that happened, the other day. Like today, you should forget about it. You could celebrate it last night, be all happy about it last night. Right, today, forget about it. You got to have a 24-hour deadline on something, in terms of, games, and remembering and talking about games and stuff like that. Sure, the media will talk a lot about it today, but you got to forget about it. And you got to focus on Game 5. You can't focus on, what if we get to Game 6, or, what if we get to Game 7? You can't do that. You got to focus game by game. Because if you start to look at the big picture, it's going to get overwhelming, and you're not going to play good hockey. So that's my little tip to the Canadians. I'm sure they know that, but a lot of teams... You start to hear, Game 6, Game 7 coming around. You start to hear, are they going to make a comeback? Don't listen to that. You got to take it game by game, especially when you're in these big deficits, because you still got to win 3 straight. That's a lot of games against a really good hockey team in Tampa Bay. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get into the podcast here today. And with that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the NBA Finals starts tonight. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Game 1 tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Phoenix actually opens this game as 6-point favorites, and no surprise there that they really opened the game as 6-point favorites. I would technically probably consider the Phoenix Suns as favorites going into the series. Now, that's just me. I don't know what the overall betting lines is. I do believe the Suns open as the favorites. I'm not 100% sure, but I know the Suns obviously obviously they're the higher seed. They have home court advantage. They're home for the first two. Bucks home for the second two. Game 5, if necessary, Suns will be home. Game 6, the Bucks will be home. And Game 7, all if necessary, the Suns will be back at their place in Phoenix. So I mean, you look at this. You look at the series. It could go a long time. I mean, this series, if they have to go to a Game 7, the series will go to July 22nd. But we're just sitting here on July 6th. This series could stretch across a really long period of time. Thursday, July 22nd is the last possible game for the NBA this season, which is kind of crazy thinking that, like, it's kind of wild because don't the Olympics, I believe, start like July 23rd and Devin Booker's on the Olympic team? If it does go to a Game 7, you're talking about a guy that's going to have to go to play in the Olympics a couple days after he just got an NBA Finals win. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how everything plays out with that. That's one thing I noticed. But this series could go a really long time. I mean, you're talking July 6th today is the start. It could go all the way until July 22nd. So we could be having NBA Finals for the next couple of weeks here and still be talking about it and still be doing it. So if it does go to a game, it's almost like we have a whole nother 2 weeks of the NBA left if they do go to a Game 7. Now, do I think it's going to go to a Game 7? That all depends. I will tell you this, though. I do think it is exciting to see a little bit of a fresh face type of teams. All those years we all got stuck with the Warriors and the Cavs every single season. Warriors, Cavs. It was just like it got old after a while. Like no matter what new team came along, no matter what people said, no matter what teams did to try to take down the Cavs and the Warriors, nothing worked. Cavs, Warriors were in it. That there was like that 4 or 5 year stretch, or that 3-4 year stretch where they were in it every year. Literally every year. So it is nice, last season we got the, we got a little bit of a new face, and we got the Heat, who haven't been in it since the whole Big Three with LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh back in, the early 2010s. The Heat were in it last year. Lakers were in it, obviously. The Lakers have been in it a lot, but recently they haven't really been in it much. So it was kind of a fresh face. I mean, we did get LeBron back in it, which I guess really isn't, a new thing, but still, Lakers, Heat was still, I think, fun to watch. Year before that, we got the Raptors, Warriors, and now this year, again, we got the Suns, Bucks. So I would like to say that finally we have a little bit of a variety of teams, and no matter who would have made it this year, even if the Nets made it, Nets have never won a final, so it would have been a variety with them too. And even if the Sixers made it, even if the Jazz made it, a lot of these teams, now if the Lakers made it, it would have been back-to-back, but it depends on who comes out of the East. So it's nice to see two teams that we don't see very often in the finals. I don't know if any of these teams ever won a finals either. But let me break down the matchup here. Obviously, that's what I really want to get to here. But that's just something I notice is it is nice to see a couple different teams in here instead of the same teams every year, because it does get old after a while. The Patriots for the 2010s, we saw the Patriots literally every year. The Chiefs have already been back-to-back. If the Chiefs make it again, not much variety there. Now it's nice to get some variety, and now it's nice to see a fresh face, two fresh faces in the NBA Finals. If you're gonna ask me this though, if I think this series is gonna be, I think this series is gonna be a good series. I really do. I don't think this series is gonna be anything of a blowout. I don't really think it's gonna be something that I don't know if it's gonna be a series that's gonna go to 7 games. I really do, and I'll tell you in a little bit here. I do believe there is one team in this series that does have the upper hand, and I'll tell you whether that's the Suns or the Bucks. I will tell you that in a little bit here. I do believe there is a team in this series that has the upper hand, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But if you go into the series, you obviously look at the big-name players, and you want to make sure those guys are going to have to perform. You look at on the Suns side of the ball, you look at DeAndre Ayton, you'll obviously look at Chris Paul, you look at Devin Booker, and guys like that, and you look on the the Bucks side of the ball, and Giannis and Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis had a good Eastern Conference Finals, especially some of the later games in that series when Giannis was down with the hyperextended knee. I am getting word, we got word a little bit yesterday, there was a report that came out that Giannis is doubtful. So you look at guys on that Bucks side of the basketball like Chris Middleton, you're going to have to look at Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. Those are going to be guys who are going to have to eat up minutes. Those are going to be guys who are going to have to step up and play big-time roles in Game 1 if, in fact, Giannis is out. And I'm hearing that Giannis is doubtful for Game 1. That report came out yesterday, which means that the Bucks players, those guys, are going to have to play big-time minutes. And I feel like that's what it's turning into, this NBA playoff, is whatever team stays healthier is going to go all the way. I feel like that's how it was. And you could say no, but let me read you some examples. Nets didn't stay healthy. They lost, right? Let's look at the Jazz, not the Jazz, the Clippers. They didn't stay healthy. Look, they're not in it. The Hawks, Trae Young got injured. Look, they're not in it now. The Bucks, Giannis did get injured. They're in it. But now they come in increased number underdogs if Giannis can only play. If Giannis is out until like Game 3, there's an issue there. Because those are two very, very capable of win. The Suns are very easy wins in those first two games if Giannis is out. And I'm not trying to be mean to the other players, but Giannis is the face of the Bucks franchise. He's not in there. There's a big glaring hole, especially with DeAndre Ayton being also in the paint. Now, you could match up Brook Lopez, but, Giannis is even more of a dominant force at times. In the paint, he's one of the better paint presence in all the league. So that's how I feel like the common theme of this series is, of the playoffs in general, has been who's been able to stay the healthiest. Right? The Hawks weren't able to stay healthy. Trae Young went down, right? The Nets, Kyrie Irving went down. Harden was playing hurt, right? They ended up losing. The Bucks, they weren't able to stay healthy. They're still in it, but now they come in with a little bit of more of an underdog with Giannis being down. The Clippers, Kawhi went down. Look, they did not make it, right? So you look at around the league, teams that were not able to stay healthy got really crushed hard. And that's no surprise, but it's happened so much. There's been so many injuries in this NBA playoffs. It's been wild. It's been pretty crazy. So now you look at this series. And I feel like if you want me to give you a key to the game, like this has to happen in order for this team to win, I think it's an overall key is whichever team stays the healthiest, I think wins this series. I think it happens. Because we've seen throughout the playoffs, the teams that have been able to stay healthy, the teams that have all lost superstars, right? Trae Young, Kawhi Leonard, guys like that. Now, I don't know if you want to consider Trae Young a superstar yet, but we can consider Kawhi Leonard a huge part of that Clippers team. I talked about him yesterday on the podcast. If you want to go watch that, you can. That was yesterday. I talked about their offseason. So I feel like the moral of this kind of series is whoever can stay healthiest. And right now, the Bucks are already coming in on a losing note, having Giannis doubtful. And I understand they did a very solid job playing without Giannis in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Hawks. Now, let me remind you, Hawks were also without Trae Young. Trae Young came back in. He was not 100%. They did not win that Game 6. But this is going to be a big series, big game tonight for Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, especially Chris Middleton, because he has been hot and cold the entire playoffs. He's had some really good games, and he's had some games that you don't even want to look at the stat line because he's had some games to forget. He's had some games that have been really good, and you're going to look back on them. If they do win the finals, you're going to look back on them. Wow, remember Chris Middleton had a really good game in this game? And then you're also going to have games that you want to forget if you're Chris Middleton. So that's one of the things I got to say, is the injuries. And Giannis is doubtful. And maybe he does play. Maybe he does play. But Game 1, I feel like, is an important game already for the Bucks. Because if the Bucks fall behind 1-0, you're in a way you're almost like rushing Giannis back. And then they could re-injure it, and it could mess everything up for the series. But if you win tonight, you got a chance of, okay, Giannis maybe takes it a little slower, make sure that he is closest to 100%. Because if you lose tonight, you're down 1-0. You cannot possibly fall into a 2-0 hole and have Giannis still hurt. And then have Giannis possibly come back for Game 3 and, play only 60% and lose. And you're down 3-0. And now you got to win 4 straight games. And you look at the Suns side, they're healthy. Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, and they've played so well together as a team, and they're led by a very good coach in Monty Williams. Has had an excellent season. A lot of people believe he should have won Coach of the Year. I agree with Tom Thibodeau winning Coach of the Year, but I'm not going to get into that debate. That's a different story, different day. But tonight it's big, and if you want to know keys of the game, tonight it's big with the Bucks is Chris Middleton, Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. Guys like that are going to have to step up in bigger roles. Especially Chris Middleton. Because he's like the number 2 on that team. Giannis is the 1. He's like the number 2. He's like the number 2 on that team. So now that Giannis is out, the spotlight's going to be on Chris Middleton to make the big impact. And sure, you're gonna try your best to spread the ball out and try to get some production from Drew Holiday and try to get some production from Bobby Portis. He had a very good game throughout the Eastern Conference Finals. Try to get some production from Brook Lopez. But also, Chris Middleton's almost in a way has kind of almost like take this game and kind of sit there and just say, you know what, I got to take over. Like I got teammates around me, but I got to try to take over. And we've seen Chris Middleton be able to do that so far in his career. We've seen him be able to really be successful, trying to, take over and trying to score a lot of points. But like I mentioned, this playoff, we've seen some really terrible performances from him. And it's one of those things where it's like hot, cold. Like, what Chris Middleton are you going to get tonight? And that's why you go on the Suns side of the ball, and the Suns are like, perfect. Devin Booker's, all good. DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul. They're like, perfect. You got a really good coach. And they come into this game healthy. They come into this game rolling. And they come into this game the favorites, and they have home court advantage. And I'm going to tell you now, I believe. Now, you could debate. You could disagree. I'd love to hear your comments down below. But I believe that the Suns have the upper hand in this series. And I'll tell you why. Kind of just what I said, but going to repeat it a little bit and twist it a little bit. Talk a little bit more about the Suns here. The Suns are the healthier team right now. They've also got a guy in Devin Booker who has been amazing throughout the playoffs. And they've got a guy in Chris Paul who it just seemed like he cannot be stopped. You go into Game 6 against the Clippers, and you're like, wow. Like we need a big performance from him. What does he do? Drop like 41 points. Right? They are the healthier team. They are the better team, I believe, right now going into Game 1. Even with Giannis on the court for the Bucks, Chris Paul, Devin Booker have been so unstoppable. It's just crazy. They've been so unstoppable. I mean, Chris Paul, we've known throughout his career, he can be really good from the mid-range, really good spraying the ball out, making that extra pass, making that smart move, making that extra dribble, and pulling up and making a big shot in a game. But this playoff, he's taken it to another level. I mean, it seems every time they have the ball, Chris Paul's making an impact, whether that's an impact, off ball, whether that's a screen, whether that's a pass, whether that's a dribble, whether that's a cut, whatever it is, he seems to be making an impact every time. And you got a guy in a Devin Booker that's feeding off of that. Chris Paul's making a smart decision. Devin Booker's either cutting, coming around him, shooting a three. Devin Booker's been amazing with pushing the fast break offense. We've seen it a lot. I saw it in that Clippers series. He'll dribble up, quick stop his feet, shoot a three, make it. He's been very good at that. I feel like the Suns, you look at this roster, you look at how they've played, you look at the guys like Devin Booker, Ayton, Paul, Mikal Bridges. You look at those guys. Even Crowder. He hasn't been amazing, but he's given you 10 points per game about in the postseason. You look at those guys on this roster, I just don't see the Bucks tonight, especially, really being able to stop that Suns offense. We saw with the Clippers, they were not able to stop it. Now, they were without Kawhi, who is their best defender, but they were not able to stop it. We've seen the Lakers, they were not able to stop it. And the Suns got the job done even when Chris Paul was out for those 1 or 2 games he was in that COVID protocol. But the Suns, you look at their roster, you look at what they've done throughout the playoffs, and ultimately, I think the biggest factor is they are the healthier team going into this. Giannis is out for the Bucks tonight. He's doubtful. More than likely, he'll be out. Maybe he plays. Maybe he does. But they are the healthier team, too, which is a big key factor in the NBA and when it comes down to it. Because we all know how the NBA is. There's 1 or 2 really good players on that team. There could be one really dominant player on a team, and they could lead that team to a championship. We saw with LeBron and the Cavaliers. One dominant player led them all the way. Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard, the dominant player, led them all the way. In a way, Curry in the first year they made it with the Warriors, not Curry with Durant, because Curry and Durant, obviously, they two dominant players, but Curry that first year with the Cavs, that was when they choked the 3-1 lead. Curry that season, the one dominant player, led them all the way. Right? We see that all the time in basketball. You have one really, really good player and a bunch of solid players. Now, LeBron and the Cavs was one really good players and a bunch of meh. Just a bunch of guys that were filling in the roster. And that's what I'm talking about here with Giannis. It's one really good player in Giannis, and the rest are good, but I don't know if it's enough to stop this Suns team and ultimately stop this Suns team from what they do. They shoot well. They make that extra pass. They make smart decisions. They don't turn the ball over much. They get back on defense. They're amazing in transition. They got Chris Paul and Devin Booker, who have been outstanding this playoffs. Devin Booker leads the team in points per game at 27. Chris Paul's behind him with 18.1 points per game. Ayton leads the team in rebounds. That's another thing. Tonight, if you're without Giannis, who's going to get a rebound? I mean, you could say Brook Lopez, but I would give the upper end of DeAndre Ayton 10 times over Brook Lopez. Maybe you got Drew Holiday or someone like that getting in there and being physical. If the Bucks want to win tonight's game, they got to be physical. I think that's it. If the Bucks want to win tonight, if the Bucks want to win the series, right? Giannis is doubtful for tonight's game. He might come back game 2, which is Thursday. I personally, if anything, I see him coming back game 3 because that's Sunday, right? He'll be off today. Then you have the Thursday game. Then the team as a whole has Friday, Saturday off. Personally, if the Giannis injury looks as bad as it is, I think he'll come back for that Sunday game 3, especially if the Bucks find themselves down in a 2-0 hole, right? Because they're home, they'll be back home. He'll have a lot of rest. The team will be coming off of 2 days off. It's like a little bit of a restart. You go into that game 3 at a must-win game. I could see that happening. Maybe Giannis comes in tonight. Maybe Giannis plays tonight. But right now he's doubtful. So right now I'm going with he's not going to play, and the Bucks are going to have to be extremely physical tonight. And I mean guys like Drew Holiday and Portis, maybe getting in there and trying to get rebounds, playing really hard defense, playing until the whistle is, playing until the whistle is blown, playing really physical basketball. And that doesn't mean pushing and shoving and yelling and all that. That means, playing close defense, getting in there, getting a couple more bodies in there to grab a rebound, driving, trying to draw that foul. When they're coming in on you, don't be afraid to take a call, or don't be afraid to, stand in front and, block it. Right? That's kind of what I mean in terms of physical. If there's a wide open lane, don't be afraid to get in that lane and try to block that shot. Right? It's going to take a lot of effort tonight without Giannis for the Bucks, and we've seen that happen. We've needed to see it, and maybe this happens with the Bucks. We need to see guys step up that haven't really stepped up much. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Those guys are going to need to really step up. Those are the lower rotation guys that are going to need to step up tonight. And for the Suns, it's going to have to be the same as usual. It's going to have to be Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, all those guys like that. And especially Chris Paul. I mean, they're without Giannis. So Chris Paul gets in the mid-range. There's not much of a big to really be scared about coming out of the paint and putting up his hands and trying to block a shot. Simple as that. I think tonight's game would have to really go haywire for the Suns to lose it. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. The Suns could get smoked tonight, and the Bucks could come out firing on all cylinders. But I think going into this series, one team has the extreme advantage, and that's the Phoenix Suns. And I'll tell you why, right? All the things I just said, let me sum them up. Suns are healthier. They got all their stars in the game. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Ayton. Now, could that change tonight? One could go down and get injured? Sure. But for right now, they're all healthy. They have home court advantage, which is always big, I believe, especially now that fans are back in the arena and it's all the capacity and stuff like that. They have home court advantage. That's huge. And I feel like this works towards the Suns as well. The Bucks are not the healthier team. And Giannis is out tonight. Most likely Giannis is out. Those are 5 reasons. The 5th reason, I guess you can kind of use more towards tonight's game, why the Suns will win. Because, tonight's game is, Giannis is out. So that might be used more towards tonight's game. The next game of the series tomorrow, or, Thursday's game and, other games like that. Sure, maybe, that might be a little different. if Giannis plays. But for the most part tonight, more than likely Giannis is out. So, healthier team. Their stars are all healthy. Home court advantage. The Bucks are not healthy, which helps out the Suns so much. And Giannis is out. For right now, Giannis is out. Now, when Giannis comes back, that's a reason that could be eliminated. But I could throw another reason in there that, the Suns have been the smarter team. Less turnovers, shooting the ball really well. They've shot the ball really well, mid-range. You look at all that stuff. I mean, it's been really fun to watch. I mean, this is a Suns team that, going into the season, really weren't expected to do much. They're one of those teams that are kind of like in a little bit of a rebuild phase, got some young youth. They went out, got Chris Paul, and boom, look like this. They're getting ready to play an NBA Finals game. So, and that's what I mean by it in the beginning. Right? When I mean like a fresh face, I don't mean, like trying to be mean by that. Like, oh, finally this team's in it. No, I truly am happy that there is a different team in here. And I felt like this year, throughout the bracket, we got some different teams. Like the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Knicks, the Hawks. Right? Those are teams that, now they didn't make it, but those are at least some different teams. The Mavericks. If the Clippers even would have made it. I think that's a little different because they've been a talk of the league for the past 2 years now. So I guess it's a little different. But the Suns finish off the regular season 51-21. Bucks had a regular season of 46-26. Tonight, game 1, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Phoenix in 6. I told you, 56.8%. 56.8%. Actually, no. The Suns have a 56.8% chance of winning. That's according to ESPN's Basketball Power Index. So that's according to that. Yeah. So like I mentioned, throughout the season, Giannis actually had better rebounding numbers than Ayton, which is huge because you're missing out on a rebounder, which is going to give Ayton a golden opportunity tonight to really have more rebounds. I don't know if Brook Lopez is really slowing him down. 43.2% chance of the Bucks winning tonight. So the Suns have the upper hand, 56.8% chance. They're the 6-point favorites. I told you that I believe the Suns will win the series. I will tell you now, I do believe, I said I don't think it's going to be any crazy, sweep. I think the Suns win, especially if Giannis is not full 100%. I think the Suns win in 5-6 games. I don't know if they sweep. I can see the Bucks maybe getting one in Milwaukee. But I think the Suns win in 5-6 games. And you might think I'm crazy for it, but have you seen the Suns play? I mean, if you've seen them play at all this playoff, they've been amazing. I mean, they've been a team that has been something else. And they are 4 wins away from, winning it all. So are the Bucks. So, but Suns, I just think, I don't know how you can't give the Suns the upper hand. They've got everything going for them. They're healthier. They've got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, who've been amazing. And you look at the Bucks side, and nothing against the Bucks and nothing against the other players, but you're without Giannis. I don't know how I'd feel about that if you're a Bucks fan. And Mike Budenholzer, the Bucks head coach, even said it's kind of a day-to-day thing. So it's not like there's any set date for him to come back. It's a day-to-day thing. It's kind of however he's feeling on that day. And right now, it's doubtful. And we haven't heard any new updates on it right now. Now, the game is still about, 12 hours away. But, still, fact is Suns come into this game with all their weapons. That's kind of how I should leave it. That's how I'm going to finish off. Suns come into this series with all their weapons. The Bucks come into this series with, some of their backup weapons, I guess, but not their main weapon. That's how I see it. So, Suns in 5-6 games. I do believe tonight's a big game for both teams. I mean, if the Bucks come out and win tonight, that's a huge statement win without Giannis. But if the Suns come out and win tonight, you got to think if you're the Bucks, not to start to panic, but especially if they get smoked, you got to start to think, Giannis, Even if Giannis isn't 100%, even if he's like 60, 70%, you got to try to get him back out there. It's got to be something like a Harden. At least try to get him back out there. That's why I said I think if they lose both in Phoenix and they head back home, I think Game 3, you got to have Giannis in there because that's a must-win game. But I'm looking ahead, right? I just said earlier with the Canadiens, you got to take it game by game. And right here, too, with the Suns-Bucks, you can't look at the big picture. You got to take game by game. And Game 1's tonight, we'll see who wins. We'll see if the Bucks come out and, come in as the underdogs and beat the Suns, or if the Suns just take care of business and get the job done. We'll find that out tonight. So that's what I got for the Suns-Bucks preview. As I said, I do think the Suns win the series, 5 or 6 games. I guess 5 games. I think 5 games if Giannis doesn't, if Giannis is if Giannis doesn't play, if Giannis comes back like Game 2 or 3, I think 5 games. But if he plays, he won't play tonight. If he comes back in like Game 3, I do think 5 games. Because I think they might be able to squeak out one win in Milwaukee, and then they come back and win that. I don't think it's a series that's going to go into 7 games. I also think it's going to be a sweep. I think the Suns in like 6 games. 5, 6 games. That's what I think. So comment down below your thoughts on the series. Who you think will win. You could just say Suns or Bucks in however many games. Like I said, everyone has their opinion. I personally don't think the Bucks are going to win, but, you could go out and say the Bucks are going to win in 4 games. If you want to be optimistic, if you believe that, you could do it. But I think the Suns have the upper hand in a lot of the categories, and most of all, what we've seen in this playoffs, the Suns are the healthier team. And I know that might sound crazy for me to say that because, no one's ever talked about health this much in basketball, but it's the truth. That's how this playoff's been. All the teams that have really been eliminated, they've struggled with staying healthy. Suns are healthy. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that's what I got for the NBA Finals preview. And good series ahead. I really do think it's going to be a fun series to watch. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a close. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think it's going to be Suns 5-6 games. All right, so coming up next here, I wanted to get into Chris Paul and the Suns. As I mentioned earlier, just a couple minutes ago, I talked about him and his impact on the Suns. I wanted to get into him. The fact that he's in a finals finally and gets another opportunity to win it all. And, I want to get into Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns coming up next. Alrighty, so as I talked about just a couple minutes ago about Chris Paul and the Suns team, obviously this season Chris Paul has been a huge part of the Phoenix Suns, and not even really so much this season, but mainly this playoff series. Mainly the playoffs. He's been a huge part of what has been a great run by the Phoenix Suns, and obviously tonight, Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and Chris Paul's had a very solid career. He is 36 years old. He's getting up there in age. He's, I guess you got to say, towards the tail end of his career. Although right now he's playing young. He's playing like he's just came into the league with the firepower he's playing with how he's playing. He's playing really well. He's playing like a really, really, really good player. And obviously a guy who, has had the past, I guess you got to say, 4 years of his career have been a little weird. Was with the Clippers all those years, and then, was with the Clippers all those years, and then he went to the Rockets for 2, and then he went to the Thunder for 1, and then now this year, he's back with the Suns, and it's one of those weird things, because he went to a Thunder team where, it wasn't one of those things where, a lot of people, he was kind of on a Thunder team that was like, they weren't anything special, and you look at, obviously, now he's on the Suns, now he's in the NBA Finals, and that's something I find so crazy about Chris Paul, right? This is a guy who, he went to the Rockets, right? He went, with Harden and stuff like that, and a lot of people were like, teaming up, and, got to see all that stuff, and that's going to be great, Harden, Chris Paul, that's going to be fun to watch, and it never worked out. The 2 years he was there, it never worked out. He goes to the Thunder, and it's like that super weird season last year, where, it was, they had the bubble and stuff like that. It was the super weird season. He goes to the Thunder. And it's like one of those things where it's almost like Chris Paul a couple years ago, he could have very well thought about retiring. He went to the Rockets, never worked out. Then he was on a Thunder team, and it was just like one of those situations where, like, what is this? Like, what's going on here? Chris Paul and the Thunder, a team that's, kind of, rebuilding and stuff like that. And, like, Chris Paul has not had, much playoff success in his career. It's one of those things where it's like, you very well could have debated about retiring and just hanging up the shoes, or however they were in it, hanging up the cleats in football and stuff, but, hanging it up, and then he goes to the Suns. And I don't think many people expected this season that he would be this good and this much of a valuable piece for the Phoenix Suns. But he's been amazing this playoffs. And, he's always been good from the mid-range throughout his career. It's not like just this season he's good. It's not like just, recently he's been good with the mid-range. He's been very good with the mid-range throughout his entire career. That's been one of the things that has been so good about him, is shooting the mid-range and shooting it as a high clip mostly. Obviously this season, 49.9% field goal percentage in his career, 47.2% field goal percentage. So he's actually above from what his career is. He's not an amazing three-point shooter, but his mid-range, his field goal percentage, he'll get the job done. And, a guy who started every game of his career. He's played 1,090 games played. He's played 1,090 games in his career. He's seen a lot. He's started every game he has played in his career. 1,090 games played and 1,090 games started. A guy who has an experience. He's been in the league since 2005. He's 36 years old. He's a veteran. He knows a lot about the game. He's played a long time. He knows what it's like. He knows what a lot of situations is. He's done a lot. And one of the things that I've noticed about Chris Paul is, although times have changed throughout the NBA, his game has been the same thing. Mid-range, passing the ball, spreading it out, getting your teammates involved. He's been the same player since he entered the league in 2005. He's been that same guy. He's been, that mid-range, that passing, getting your teammates involved, making that extra cut, making that extra dribble. Amazing in transition. Making that pass in transition, getting back on defense in transition. It's a guy, too, who could do good on both sides of the ball. And we've seen that this playoffs. Is he as good as he is on the offense? No. But he can do it on the both sides of the ball, too. It's that mid-range shot that he's made a living. That's one of those things in basketball. Right? If you could be hot from one area, you can make a living. Curry's hot, Curry's amazing from three-point. Best three-point shooter of all time. He's made a living. Has he not? One of the best players in the league right now. He'll go down as one of the better ones as well. Especially the best shooter. I will stop debating that Ray Allen's the best. Curry is the best. No doubt about that. Shooter of all time. Not the best of all time. Shooter of all time. MJ's still the best of all time. And I don't know if anyone will ever cap that. I really don't. That's a different story, different day, though. But it's a pure example of Chris Paul. Like, this is a guy who, adapted his game and did well, and now he's mid-range. And he's made a living off of it. Curry's made a living off of shooting a lot. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like, all this guy does is shoot. I mean that he's dominant from one area of the court. And look, he's made a career off of it. And he's been dominant doing it. Same thing here with Chris Paul. KD's made a living off of just scoring. He'll go down as one of the better scorers of all time. Scoring points, getting to the hoop, making shots, threes, twos, layups, all that stuff. Getting to the free throw line. KD's very good at scoring. He finds ways to score. He's made a living off that. That's how it is in sports. Right? If you can find one thing you're really good at, and you do that thing really well throughout your career, you'll make a living. Chris Paul's done that with his mid-range. This is a guy who, especially this season, especially this playoffs, has been able to adapt, shoot a lot of mid-ranges, get to his zone on the court and shoot. Contested, not contested, it seems to go in for Chris Paul, especially this playoff series, or this playoff where he shot 66.7%, 66.7 field goal percentage, 87.5 three-point percentage in the Clippers game, Game 6, and he had 41 points. Right? He's been able to really be dominant at mid-range, and look, he has now made a living, and he is now heading to an NBA Finals. And that's, I think, so special about it. Is this guy has such a great career, but he has never had that much success. He's had a great career, but he's never been able to, he's never been able to get to that next level, right? A guy in his career, I'm pulling it up here, 11-time NBA All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, four-time All-NBA First Team, 5-time All-NBA Second Team, All-NBA Third Team, 7-time All-Defensive First Team, 2-time All-Defensive Second Team. Like I said, he could play defense. NBA Rookie of the Year, NBA All-Rookie First Team, 4-time NBA Assist Leader, 6-time NBA Steals Leader. Like I said, Assist Leader, Steals Leader. I said he's very good on the defensive side of the ball. He dishes it out. He shoots really well. He makes that pass. He makes that extra feed. He gets his teammates involved. Right? He's mid-range pass. He's done that for a living. Very good on the defensive end. Gets back on defense. Causes chaos on the defensive side of the ball. And he's doing it even more now. It seems like he's getting better with age. Like he's 36 years old. It's like this is the best Chris Paul we've ever seen. And I truly mean that. Like this seems like the true Chris Paul we've seen. Like the best Chris Paul we've seen is this series, this playoffs. Especially last series. I mean, that 41-point game is unreal. He's 36 years old, and he's putting up 41 points, in a playoff series. And he's been amazing this season. And I don't think the Suns expected nearly this much out of him. It's almost like he was losing it. It seems like, he should leave. He should get out of the league. And all of a sudden, 18.6, 15.7, 16, 17, all that stuff. It was almost like he was losing it there with, the Rockets. He is a career 18.3 point per game guy. And now you look at him and it's like, wow. Like he's completely revamped his career, a fresh start in Phoenix. And that's why I feel like he's playing like he's a rookie. It's almost like he's forgetting about everything else in his career. Right now, he's just playing like a rookie. Like it's his first year. It's a fresh start. And he's been so good. And he's 4 wins away from winning his first NBA Finals. And as long as of a career he has had, starting off with the New Orleans Hornets, I think. Yeah, the New Orleans Hornets. Then it was the Clippers. Then the Rockets. Then the Thunder. And now this year, the Suns. For all those years, he's been in the league since 2005. Was the first-round pick, 4th overall in the 2005 NBA draft. He's now in his 16th, 17th season, getting to his first finals, getting into a finals appearance, getting the opportunity to win it all, and he's been a huge part of it. And at 36 years old, he's playing at an incredibly high level. And this season's stats, 16.4 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 8.9 assists, that's 3rd in the league. A guy, too, who has been even better in the postseason. And I can pull up his postseason stats here. Let's see. Postseason. His stats in the postseason this year have been very good. Let's see. Okay. So his stats in the postseason this year, 14 games played. All of them have been started. 32.8 minutes per game. 47 field goal percentage. 40.5 three-point percentage, which is up than his regular career average. 90.6 free throw percentage, which is up from his career average. 8.7 assists, up from his career average. 1.4 steals, a little bit below that. Rebounds, 3.9. 8.7 assists per game. And he's averaging 18.1 points per game this season. Dishing the ball out, getting assists. You look at the assist. His career average in the playoffs of assists is 8.3 this season, got 8.7, which is high. One of his higher totals. So, a guy who has had an amazing career, and we always talk about Hall of Fame. We always talk about, and Chris Paul's done to be a Hall of Famer. You always talk about Hall of Fame, and you always talk about championships, and that's big in sports, right? Tom Brady, right? He's going to be a Hall of Famer, right? He's a guy that you don't need to debate about championships, right? There's a lot of players out there that, you could debate about whether or not they should be in the Hall of Fame based on championships. This guy never had a ring. This guy never won a ring. This guy got there and never did it, right? There's been a lot of all-time greats that have never won a ring, whether that's in baseball, basketball, football, or hockey. I always go back to a great example, Henrik Lundqvist. The guy will go down as one of the best goaltenders of all time for the New York Rangers and will go down as one of the better goaltenders of all time in the NHL. He's never won a ring. Right? So that's the big question. Is like, he could be a Hall of Famer, but he's never won a ring. He's never won a championship. Same thing with Chris Paul. Now, he'll make the Hall of Fame because of all his other accolades, but he's never won a championship. Like, this is like the final little piece on top. Win a championship, and he's secured Hall of Famer. He's already in the Hall of Fame, but he'll officially punch his ballot when he wins a championship. And I believe they have a great shot here. I believe they have a amazing shot at winning it all. And, I think they have a great shot at winning it all. And you look at some guys, all time who've never won a championship. You look at Randy Moss. He's never won a championship. Never won a championship ever. I believe Barry Sanders has never won a championship. There's just some other names out there. Let me see. Let me just double check that he hasn't. Barry Sanders, I believe, has never won a championship. Yep, he's never won one. So there's a lot of guys out there. And Barry Sanders is still, don't get me wrong, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. 15,269 rushing yards. But there's a lot of guys out there that have never won a championship. And they've still been in the Hall of Fame. Chris Paul will make the Hall of Fame. But now the final little piece on his amazing career is making a champion, or is winning a championship. And ultimately, like I mentioned, this season has been amazing. And he's playing at 36 years old, and he's playing at a high level. And that's really all I got to say about that. He's been amazing. All right, so that's what I got about Chris Paul there. To finish off the podcast. I don't know if you saw this, but the streets on Montreal have been crazy. So they're all celebrating, Montreal fans and stuff like that. It's like I said, you just got to take game by game. It's one of those things where, just got to take game by game. That's why I said earlier with the Canadians, right? You take game by game, you'll be all right. Not saying they're going to win it all, but you'll be okay. If you start looking at the big picture, we're down 3-1 or we're down 3-0. You start looking at the big picture, you're like, oh gosh, we got to win 4 straight games against this team. No, you don't. No. You just got to take it game by game. I've always said this. Whenever you're down, I remember the Cavs series. When you're down like 3-0, and I'm talking about the Canadians here for a second. When you're down like 3-0 in a series, or 3-1, or even 3-2, or even if it's game 6 and you're down, and you got to win that game. Anytime the other team has game 7-2, elimination game, you got to win it all. You put everything out there. When each game, you got to put everything out there on the line, right? Everything. You got to make that diving play. You got to make that extra hit. You got to play that extra shift. You got to skate faster than that puck. You got to try to steal that puck, right? Any sport. But that's basketball. You got to make that extra effort to try to steal that ball. You got to make that extra effort to try to stay in bounds. Make that extra shot. Make that extra pass, right? You got to do everything a little bit extra in each of those games. Right? You got to play like every game is an elimination game. That's how I believe you should play the entire series. Not tense and be like all nervous, but you got to play like each game is an elimination game because, you go out there, you got to give it your 110% every game. You can't expect, game 1, this is a feeling out process, game 1, let's see how it all goes. No. Sure, the first 5 minutes of the game might be slow and you might have to see, how they're playing things and stuff like that. But then you're down 1-0. So you got to play each game, really, really, really good. And Canadians fans, I get it, they're excited, but, everyone's already, you see all the comments already all over the place. Oh, you win in Tampa back, game 6 back here. Okay, let's not talk about game 6 yet. You got to win game 5. And Tampa's not an easy place to play, don't get me wrong. And Tampa's not an easy team to beat at all. And an extra effort play yesterday was the game-winning goal by Josh Anderson. He was like diving, just put it through Vasilevsky's right arm, just chipped it in, and was on the ground afterwards. That's the extra after play I'm talking about. That's the play. That's what you need. Like, that is a very, if you want to be a Canadiens fan, you want to be really happy, that's a play. Sure, everyone's going to look at the goal, but look at the effort he made on the play. It was like, he had his stick, the puck was in front of him, but it was like kind of bouncing a little bit. He got under control, shot it, and was like diving while doing it. That's not an easy goal to score. That's an extra after play. He could have just easily just let that puck pass, got it, and try to start up the offense. No, instead he took a shot. And even if it got saved, that's a play that's huge. Nick Suzuki made one of those plays last night too, where he had the puck. It was like a one-on-one. He did like a spin move and just shot it. Now, it didn't go in, but he shot it. He got an extra shot on goal. He set it up the offense then. That's what you need if you're a Canadiens. I know I went on that little rant there, but that's the truth. So the Canadiens win 3-2 last night. Tampa Bay leads the series now 3-1. They have a day off today. They will play again tomorrow. Game 5 tomorrow night. Big game tomorrow. Big game. Alrighty, and as for the NBA, as I mentioned earlier, Suns-Bucks game 1 tonight. Suns come in this game 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 219 for this game. Today's game goes on to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Finals game 1. 57% of people think the Phoenix Suns will win. I will join those 57% of people. I think the Suns win tonight. As for yesterday in the MLB, the Nationals won, Red Sox won, Phillies won, Reds won, Tigers won, Twins won, Rays won, Pirates won, Marlins won, Mets won, and Cardinals won. And as for today, we got the Orioles, Blue Jays. I'll give Blue Jays the win. Braves, Pirates. I'll give Braves the win. Get to the Mets in a second. Dodgers, Marlins, give Dodgers the win. Phillies, Cubs, give Phillies the win. Rangers, Tigers, give Rangers the win. Cheaters, A's, give A's the win. Reds, Royals, give Reds the win. Twins, White Sox, give Twins the win. Red Sox, Angels, give Red Sox the win. Actually, I'll give White Sox the win in that other one. White Sox the win in that other game, and I'll give Red Sox the win against the Angels. Let's see here. Diamondbacks, Rockies, I'll give Diamondbacks the win. Giants, Cardinals, I'll give Giants the win. Padres, Nationals, I'll give Padres the win. Nationals, I talked about, they got the job done yesterday. Good win for them. All right, so as for the Mets and the Brewers, Mets come in this game 44-37. Brewers come in this game 51-35. The Brewers got Anderson on the mound. He's 2-5 with a 4.69 ERA. The Mets got DeGrom on the mound. He's 7-2 with a .95 ERA. The over/under for this game is 7. And today's game goes on 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. 63% of people think the Mets will win. I think the Mets will win as well. They got their ace on the mound, Jacob DeGrom, best pitcher in baseball. He is out there today. As for the Yankees come in this game 42-41. Mariners come in this game 45-40. This game comes on today, 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Yankees got Jameson Taillon on the mound. He's 3-4 with a 5.43 ERA. And the Mariners got Justice Sheffield on the mound, former Yankees prospect that we gave him up in that James Paxton trade. He's coming in the game 5-7 with a 5.88 ERA. The over/under for this game is 9.5. 54% of people think the Yankees will win. I don't think so. Mariners haven't played good baseball. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Mariners win. As for fantasy baseball, I made some moves yesterday, but I'm currently losing 26-12. And today I've got going Yadier Molina, Jake Cronenworth, Marcus Semien, Austin Riley, J.P. Crawford, Carlos Correa, Gene Segura, Christian Yelich, Whit Merrifield, Dylan Carlson, Avisail Garcia, and Will Smith. And, and I got Chris Bassett on the mound. Alrighty, so some updates here on roster. I made some moves yesterday on my roster, and we'll see how everything plays out involving those moves. Now, today, these are the moves I made. So, yesterday, obviously, on the podcast, I actually made the move. I dropped Jonathan India and added Josh Harrison. That was a move yesterday, so you all know how that went. I also made another move. I dropped, let's get it here. I dropped Josh Rojas, added Franmil Reyes. So I had dropped Josh Rojas, added Franmil Reyes. Guys off the IL. He had a really good game yesterday. He had 13 fantasy points. He had went 3 for 5 with a home run, 5 RBIs, and a stolen base. So he played yesterday. And I made another move, a waiver claim. I added James Caprillion, drop Frankie Montez. Frankie Montez this season has struggled, has not been good for me. I just got rid of him, and I added James Caprillion, who has been really good this season. 4-3, 4-3, 62 strikeouts, 2.84 ERA, 1.07 WHIP, 151 fantasy points, 23 precision rank, 15.1 average points, and 61.5% roster throughout leagues. And his last start, he went 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, 20 points. So he's been really good, so I added him. And now my pitching staff's looking much better. Adding Caprillion there as well. So that's what I got there. And I'm sure I'll make moves today based off of lineups, who's playing, who's not, all that stuff. So made some moves. I found my pitcher. I do believe I found my pitcher in Caprillion. I do believe that. Now I know a lot of people ask me this if I stream pitchers. I don't. I know in other leagues pitchers are like defenses in fantasy. I know a lot of people use them like defenses, which makes sense, I guess. But I don't use them. A lot of people in my league, defenses fantasy football. I mean, like a lot of people in my league, they use it where when the guy's starting, you pick him up. I don't do that. I usually just have pitchers because if he's starting and I try to pick him up, everyone's going to be doing it. And another thing is let's say he's doing really well and I drop him. I don't want to drop a guy that's having a really good season. I don't want to do that. So my pitching needed help as well. I can't go have Frankie Montez. I could have dropped Frankie Montez. I don't even know why I drafted him. I could have dropped him like months ago. That's how he's not had a good season. He's got like a 4.63 ERA. He's not been good. For fantasy standards, he's been really bad. For the A's, he hasn't been terrible, but it's nothing. I don't think it's anything. They should be too happy about it. His last start wasn't great. He only had like 8 points. Now realistically, he had a good start, 5 2/3, 2 runs. But in fantasy baseball, it's big to have strikeout pitchers. You got guys that can get strikeouts, they're going to give you points and get wins. If you get a guy that's going to go out there and throw 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, he's not going to get you much points. Caprillion had 10 strikeouts the other day, so I picked him up. Not just that, his overall, you look at what he's done in his past couple games, have been really good. The guy's got an ERA below 3. That's very good. So, but that's what I got today for the podcast. So, another good podcast in the books. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Let's see, what's on tap for tomorrow? A lot of NFL stuff coming up, by the way. With training camp starting July 23rd, a lot of NFL stuff coming up, and that should be exciting. I think it should be good. I'm excited for it. I'm pumped up for the NFL training camp and stuff like that. So that NFL, I believe, training camp starts July 23rd, so I'll be talking a lot of NFL, talking a lot of training camp, going through a lot of the teams. So that should be good. Obviously, more baseball ahead, and the NBA Finals and all that stuff. So, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.